Hello, commanders. Listen, if this is your first time watching, I am Hannah Bianca Gant, and I teach people how to live and work on purpose. This particular session is something that is very near and dear to me. And if you would have told me that I was going to be in a position where my heart was free enough to not just encourage others through this, but to also equip people with just different tips and strategies, but with my heart just completely not bitter, I would have said, you are absolutely wrong. I tried this several times. And every time I tried to talk about this topic or teach about it, I was definitely convicted because I recognized that my heart was not yet ready. My heart's ready now. And I'm hoping that there's something that is shared within this series that will not just impact your life, but it will change your parenting. It will change your children's lives as well. So what am I talking about, y'all? We are talking about child custody. But if I must admit, it's from a kingdom perspective. So I am not an attorney. I'm not here to give you advice, things of that nature, but I am here to encourage you through this experience, not to tell you what to do, but just to maybe give you a new perspective that maybe you'll hold on to, or maybe you don't, right? But I'm hoping that you're impacted positively either way. So one of the first things I want to talk about is, what in the world is child custody anyway? And it's not what you think it is what I'll say. Again, I want to talk about it from a kingdom perspective. So glad that you're here, and make sure that if something is real good to you, put it in the chat. Let me know how you feel. Let me know what you're thinking, and let me know any additional ads or things that you want to add to this conversation. Okay. So this series, let me just share, is not necessarily for everybody. It is for those that possibly are currently in a child custody situation, those preparing for one, or maybe those that are healing from one. You've already gotten the paperwork and you're just still kind of going through the things, whatever. And I want to share with you all that while there are going to be many biblical references, because that is my foundational blueprint for my faith, whatever your beliefs are, I believe that if you follow me through these series, you'll be able to pick something up that will apply either to you or someone that you know that might be going through a child custody matter. So I just pray that you get clarity, peace, and direction either way. So let's tackle the definition of custody. Now, we know if you just go on Google, will tell you that custody is the protective care or guardianship of a child, right? Sounds pretty basic. But I'm telling you that as believers, we gotta go a little deeper, because let me tell you, God is the ultimate custodial parent. Hello, somebody, right? We know that you are the biological parent. We know, especially if you're the mom, you carry the child. If you're the dad, you all of the things. Oh, I don't know your situation, but you more than likely are the biological parent. And what I am here to remind you is that not only are you biologically somebody's child, but you belong to the Father, but it's the same for your child. Okay. I need us to settle in that. Take a deep breath if you need to. That you are not fighting for custody, because God has custody. God has custody of your child. God already has custody. Give your child to God. Now, I don't know everybody's faith that's watching, but if you've never dedicated your child to God, although you gave birth, and again, if your story is anything like mine, I had the child custody particular situation. I had my child out of wedlock, and there's just a bunch of things, right? But if you've never dedicated your child to God, meaning actually, made a covenant saying that this child belongs to you, God, it doesn't, he does not, or she does not belong to anybody else or children, right? I want you to pray about if you need to do that, right? Like dedicate your child to God, whether you do it in a public format amongst, your pastor, things of that nature, which I highly recommend. But even if you don't do that, begin to just proclaim that that child belongs to God and spiritually. And then again, I want you to literally just have a knowing that that child belongs to God. You get to steward them here on earth, but they belong to God. Amen. Because what we are establishing is earthly order and responsibility. We are not establishing ownership. Okay? Because who do you really own? Who do you own? Right? We don't know tomorrow. We don't know what. So hopefully you all are getting. So again, I just want to establish a baseline. Okay? The other thing that I want us to really establish in this first session is that it's super important for us to know who our enemy is. Sometimes, and again, I don't know your situation, but most of us have a child with someone because we were intimate with them. Hello, somebody. Okay? We were intimate with them. Now, I hope that because we got to that level of intimacy that we actually knew who they were. I ain't here to judge you. I'm turning my face. Okay? I'm not here to judge you. No shame, nothing. Baby, because I got a story. If you meet me in person, I'll tell you all about it. Okay? So even if you didn't know, let's say the person fully is like, man, I didn't really know who I was. The bottom line is we got intimate with the person. Okay? So much intimate that we ended up birthing a child with that person. Hello, somebody. Even if you felt like you knew them, because sometimes some folks that I've encouraged, like, man, I thought I knew them, but I really didn't. You got to be careful who you know somebody. First of all, sometimes we don't even know ourselves. We're always evolving. So don't beat yourself up unless you really didn't do due diligence. But we have to recognize that that person that you had a child with is also God's child. I know. I'm sorry, but they're also God's child. And the custody battle that you think that you're having is not necessarily with the other parent. It is not a fight against their behavior. It is not a fight against their personality. It is a fight against the principalities, all the things that are behind the person. We have to take our position very differently, because when you misidentify the enemy, you are going to fight the wrong battle every time. Every time. And when we fight flesh, we fight with our flesh against spirit, man, we not going to win. You're going to be chasing your tail over and over and over and over again. So let Ephesians 6:12 encourage you to understand who you're really fighting. Who's the real enemy? If you laid up with her, then clearly she was special enough, hopefully. If you laid up with them, hopefully he was special. Hopefully, right? And let's take this a little deeper, because we need to reframe this fight, this battle, this custody battle. What are you actually fighting for? Hello, somebody. Somebody just put hello, somebody in the chat. What are you actually fighting for? We are not fighting for custody. We already established that. We got to do some things on the earth. I get that, right? So on the earth, we got to go through the courts most times, and we got to have the paperwork to establish earthly governance. I get that. However, and with that, what comes out of that is establishing structure. You already know visitation schedules, things of that nature. Who takes the child to church? Who takes the doctors? That, all the things, right? So how your child's life or children's life are organized is part of what comes out of it, right? So that's establishing the structure. The other thing that comes out of kind of like this earthly governance is that it helps to define roles for each parent, right? Their responsibilities, their boundaries, like you better not say ... to my child, or you can't do X, Y, and Z, right? So defining those roles. And then there's also securing that legal authority that also exists, which enforces, again, that earthly governance for your child's well-being. But the bottom line is that, yes, we go through the courts to establish earthly governance, but I need us to understand that the ultimate authority is God's and God's alone. Now, my story, again, just keep following me through these series because I think you're going to be blessed and you're shanana, okay? But my story was one that I knew we were not supposed to be together. So I was in complete disobedience all the way around. I mean, from the beginning, baby, the middle, and the end, with no part of the story in obedience. However, when I see my child, I see God's grace. It could have been something else. Oh my God, my life has been forever changed. So by no means am I saying that my child, I wish my child wasn't here. No. But let's be clear. My child is definitely a grace gift. Hallelujah. A grace gift from heaven. Okay. And because of that, I had to recognize that I wasn't fighting for him, that through God's grace, I was able to put some things, I had to go through some things to establish structure, define roles, secure legal authority. But over the years, I've recognized I'm not fighting for him. I just needed to make sure my heart was pure, my hands were clean, I did the things that needed to be done, but God had the ultimate authority. If you agree, go ahead and put that in the chat. And let's be honest, right? As I alluded already to my story, I was in disobedience all the way around. We were not married. All the things. And there are several reasons why child custody situations exist, but I'm just going to highlight the top 3. Again, we're going to go deeper. I promise you in these few sessions, the next few sessions rather. So, but one of the reasons is usually a breach in expectations. Right? So when parents have unmet or conflicting expectations from one another for one another's role, that usually starts to open the door to like, I don't like you no more. And as a result, this child or these children that we have, now we got to figure this out, right? Because they clearly can't be if we're going to be separate, they can't be with both of us at the same time. Another situation that may exist is a breaking covenant. So when the original commitment was established, but that commitment fractures or dissolves. Like you all, let's just say like, no, we actually did talk about that we were going to do this, we were going to do that. We made a covenant that this was going to happen, They gave me their word or I gave them my word. Let's just be honest. Sometimes many of us that are listening, it's not just the other person. Like, what did we do too, right? What did you do? So that's another reason why the custody situation might exist. Another reason might be the lack of alignment, okay, where 2 parents just cannot find that shared ground on raising their child. Either way, again, regardless of the root causes, the focus is about the perspective that I'm coming from is from the biological parents. And just want to make sure that we understand that some of the things might have been our doing, right? Some of the things we may have been the ones contributing to it. So I just want us to maybe have an honest perspective here that we also made a decision to enter into the expectation, the covenant, and or alignment. Okay. Now, I get it. When there is a separation or conflict or whatever, one of the first things you want to go do is like prove it, go fight it, da da da. And where do we go fight it? We fight it in the court system, right? You did me wrong, I'm taking you to court. And I get it. I actually believe that we had to go to court. So everybody's situation is different. I don't know everybody's stuff. But I did want to give you a perspective, especially for those of you that might be watching, where things might be cordial for you. Maybe both of you are believers, right? Or both of you all have a good head on your shoulders and you're like, hey, we just want the best for our child, so on and so forth. I just wanted to bring to your attention Matthew 18:15-17. Sometimes we might get advice from others and they'll say, go to court, go to court. And anyway, there's just a lot. And there's other scriptures that will tell you, like, don't be quick to, take somebody to court, blah, 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 blah. You have to decide what's best for you and your situation. Again, I do believe that we had to go to court. I was actually the one that was initially saying, nope, we don't need to go to court. We don't need to go to court. So the motions were filed against me first. And then after some things that happened, I recognized, I'm like, oh no, baby, we got to be in this court situation, because if we weren't rather, then there was a lot of things that probably would not have been enforced at all. And it was still hard to enforce some things as well, right? So there's a biblical process for disagreement. So definitely take a look at Matthew 18:15-17 for those of you that might be in that particular scenario, especially if you don't have to go straight to court. Okay. Because I hear you, right? Like you don't know this person. Again, I don't know everybody's situation. I get that some people are unreasonable, especially if it was after like a bad breakup and you moved on and the other person don't want you to move on, baby. I feel like that's the worst type. Whew, it might not be the worst type, but I'm telling you, it is there. And I'm telling you what I know, I understand, and I've been there. But what I want us to do is to focus on what we can control. That is the core of all of this. We made a decision, and now we have to live that decision out. We have to live that decision out, and so does our child or our children, because this was a decision that we made. You understand? So what can you control? You can control your posture. You can control your motives. You can control your strategy. Because if your motives are to hurt the other person, it's based out of fear. It's to get them back. It's the all of the things. There's no way that your actions will be pure, and there's no way that your posture will be pure. Now, you can go put on a facade all you want to in a courtroom about, it's about the child, it's about the child. But just like do a gut check for real. Like, is it about the child or is it about you? Right? And if the child is old enough, have you asked the child what they want? And I'm not saying that that's always the best thing either, because sometimes children really don't know what's best for them, right? Especially depending on the age. But what's your motive? And how is that affecting your posture, which then affects your strategy? Because where are you getting your strategy from? Hopefully you are finding value in this video, but you shouldn't be just doing something that somebody else does. I'll tell you where your strategy should come from in just a moment. But here's what you cannot control: the other parent. For those of us that struggle with control, this is the area that you really got to relinquish. You can't control what they're going to do. Especially if you got a loose cannon. Baby, you can think that you could predict what's going to happen next all you want to. You cannot control the other parent. Okay? And again, I'm not even necessarily saying it from a negative piece, but you can't control whether or not they have a change of heart and they want to do right by you. You can't control them. Focus on what you can control. As I mentioned, we got to check our motives. Okay? If it's rooted in fear, control, reaction based, like, oh, you did this to me, so I'm gonna do that to you. And let's just face it, hurt is hard, especially when somebody hurt you or they lied on you, or man, it is so hurtful. But I'm telling you that if you don't take control of your heart, guarding your heart at all costs, checking your motives, this very thing will contradict the very thing that you say that you want for your child, which is peace. When your heart is not pure and your motives are not pure, you show up as a different person. And as much as you think you're trying to fake it, it does affect that child. And I'm not here to lie to you and say it's not hard. It is hard. But if you can get some support, community around you during this particular time to ensure that you are on the road to healing and wholeness, I really want to encourage you to do so. If you have not been on your knees about your motives and your heart to have God help you wash, to rid you of all of the things, to help you to forgive, you're going to experience anxiety, turmoil, emotional instability, and a whole lot of other things, which will be passed on to your child. And that's not what we want. Okay. So when we talk about, especially, this is going to help us with these upcoming sessions, because the bottom line is that we cannot move and respond from emotions or assumptions or fear. Our strategy must come from the Father. And again, stick with me. You all are going to hear some insights. We've gotten so much strategy, oh my gosh, from the secret place. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Literally about which counsel I should select, what I should say, when I should respond, all different types of things. And I had to go against how I was feeling. I don't think y'all understand. I know you understand. Hey, I know you understand. Gotta go against every emotion, every fiber in my being. And a lot of people say, trust your gut. Baby, sometimes you cannot trust your gut. Okay, because when your emotions are too high, you may think that that's your you got to trust the Holy Spirit, because sometimes things happen and you want to address it with flesh. And in that secret place, my goodness, out of the tears, it's like, okay, and you know that you just got to eat the humble pie and let somebody say something about you or whatever. Or you can't be the one that, it acts mean to the person. You still got to show love. And oh my goodness, that secret place will give you the strategy. I'm telling you, that secret place. I'm telling you, 5 minutes with the Father is like, you can't even, man, you're not even going to be able to, it's priceless. It's priceless. That's where you get your wisdom. Okay. And obviously through prayer to ask, but also prayer over yourself, prayer about the situation. My pastor is teaching us how we could speak to things, we could speak to atmospheres, we could pray to God, but we also have the authority to speak to things, to speak to atmospheres, to speak to people's, to people's spirits, to who they are, right? So don't forget your authority. And don't forget where your strategy has to come from, right? Because the reality is that peace in you does provide stability for your child. And you can't produce peace if you don't have it. You cannot produce peace if you don't have it. You can't give what you don't have. So please let this be your anchor. Listen, as I close our first session, I want you to know that I've been there 10 years, over 10 years. But again, we are in such a good place right now. And obviously we're all older now and things of that nature, but I'm finally at a place. I've been at this place, but I finally realized that I'm at a place of just wholeness when it comes to that, and recognize my own, what I contributed towards the situation as well. And how, again, God's grace just allowed us to deal with that, because every action has a consequence, whether positive and or negative, but recognize that it has brought forth an opportunity to encourage and help others and point them in the direction, not to their emotions, but back to God. So I'm hoping to bring real experience or wisdom, and give you just personal experiences and stories of the tension, the decisions, the growth, all of the things to navigate here with you. So again, I'm not here to give you advice per se, but just to encourage you throughout this journey. So whether you are currently in a custody situation, you're coming out of one, I think that there's wisdom to share. So I'm going to ask that we continue to support, and please, especially through the child custody chats or the sessions, the series, I'm going to ask that everybody stay positive in the comments. You never know what people are going through. Stay positive within the comments, please. But I would love to hear your insights, your comments below in the chat. And I'm looking forward to living and working on purpose with you. All right, everybody, until next time, don't forget to command your day.